Oh hey, good. It's like everyone's talking about Beauty and the Beast again, which aguous means this hot test stuff takes us back. Whoa, and you like about the 26 millionth person to make this hot take. Yeah, I read that correct article from 5 years ago, too. Okay, disclosure of BS, if you will. If you put me into a room with a gun to my head, I would say that yes, this movie is probably in me top two and a half favorite Disney movies. It's the only animated film ever nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. And this is back when they had only 5 nominees. It contains some of the most incredible and nuanced animation in any movie ever, and all made under a super tight deadline and about half the time it normally takes to make an animated movie, and with very little faith from the higher-ups. The original Beauty and the Beast reputation has taken a slight turn in recent years as the target for lazy internet jokes, and as someone who makes their living making lazy internet jokes, even I'm kind of tired of this whole like, hey look, I'm smarter than a 90s Disney movie a trend. Like, whoa, she falls in love with him despite him being a jerk to her and imprisoning her. Like, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point. See, it's like one of those stories about forgiveness. See, I understand that sometimes a Disney movie can be a little too subtle for you. Can be a little too subtle. I didn't move boy. Well, for war, all the words of content for He's no monster, Gaston, you air. Now, that said, that does not mean that it is not worth it to explore the possible merit of these lazy internet jokes, and maybe one day I'll get into the crap they added into the new movie to fix some of the criticisms that have come down the pike over the last 20 years. Oh no, but in the meantime, we're here to ask the question, does Belle have Stockholm Syndrome? No. Thank you for watching. Oh, like, share, and subscribe to me channel. Thank you, of course, to all me. Oh, lovely patrons, I could to do this without you. Oh, you want me to, like, actually talk about the thing. Okay, well, you know what first. Let's figure out what Stockholm Syndrome even is. Stockholm Syndrome describes a psychological phenomenon where hostages, kidnapping victims, and victims of abuse develop intense emotionalities to their captors/abusers as a survival strategy. The name refers to an incident in Stockholm, Sweden in 1973, when 4 hostages, who had been taken captive by bank robbers, eventually refused to testify against their captors. Here are the key components to the development of Stockholm Syndrome. That the hostage develops positive feelings towards their captor. There is no previous hostage-captor relationship. That the hostage has an increasing belief in the humanity of their captor. That the hostage learns to excuse abusive behaviors of their captor. And, of course, a refusal by the hostage to accept the support of the authorities. Okay, but here's the thing. The aforementioned are just requirements for the development of what could be considered Stockholm Syndrome. They are not symptoms. Symptoms. Here are the symptoms. Number 1. A severely uneven power relationship in which the captor dictates what the prisoner can and cannot do. The castle is your home now, so you can go anywhere you like. Except the West Wing. What's in the West Wing? It's forbidden. You will join me for dinner. That's not a request. Let's put a pin in that one. We'll come back to that. Number 2. The captive is held under the threat of death or physical injury at the hands of the captor. You have me word. Done. Okay, well, I guess we got that one too. Wait a minute. Whose idea was it for Bella to stay at the castle anyway? Take me instead. You. Yeah. I mean, she is being held against her will in the same way you re being held against your will if you re in 9th grade trig and you re dying to go home. Her we will the you But there is a key difference here. This is not a kidnapper-kidnappee relationship. She stays in the castle because they make an agreement. You have me word. Done. And point number 2 here is where the whole argument falls apart. The captive is held because she made an agreement. And this isn't even like in the fairy tale where she exchanges herself for her dad who is being held under a very clear threat of death. The beast just kind of sounds like he's making it up like he goes along, like he's just a kid who has no idea what he's doing. Would you let him go? Yes, but you must promise to stay here forever. Forever. There's one point in the movie where the threat of violence does pop up and it's right here. Stop. Get out. No. Get out. Which brings us to Stockholm point number 3. Inability to engage in behaviors that may assist in their release or detachment. See, here's what follows immediately after Beast's little outburst. Where are you going? Promise or no promise? I can't stay here another minute. She'd been in the castle for maybe 5 hours. So once the beast starts, Throwing tables around, Belle runs away, even as she leaves mentioning the little verbal contract that had been keeping her there and then dismissing it. And this brings us back to point number one. The beast defines rules. The castle is your home now, so you can go anywhere you like, except the West Wing. What's in the West Wing? It's forbidden. And then Belle is immediately like, tra-la-la-la-la. No. If Stockholm Syndrome is a condition displayed by the victim, then Belle does not apply because she does not respect the rules set up for her from basically the word go. Ah, so that's the West Wing. Point number 4. And then after X amount of violence, the smallest act of kindness on the part of the captor, or even the absence of violence, elicits sympathetic feelings from the captive. This one, I think, is the symptom that people are most familiar with, and therefore the one that tends to trip people up. It really bugs me when people file this movie into the I can fix him category. No rules, no punishments, and no more secrets. I can do that. Because Belle never sets out to fix the beast. Ever. I mean she's way more reasonable than anyone in that situation might be expected to be, but she basically responds to his absence of dickery. Now, this is not the case in the Beauty and the Beast direct-to-video sequels. Come on. Oh boy. You said you'd never leave. I just wanted to make you happy. But in the original movie, i.e., the thing that matters, her goal is never at any point, either stated or unstated, to make the beast into another person. If he's a jerk, she responds in kind. Will you come down to dinner? No. If he's nice, she responds in kind. She treats him fairly, and he decides to improve himself of his own volition out of respect and fondness for her. And eventually she responds by being like, I guess I wouldn't kick him out of bed. I say, I would. She like The archetypal Stockholm Syndrome setting is more like, your captor throws a scrap of bread at you after having starved you for weeks on end, not necessarily saved you from a pack of ravenous wolves. That said, I'm not convinced that the beast didn't, slip those wolves a 20 under the table. Anyway, so after the beast gets in a fight with some wolves, falls down, Belle recognizes that he put himself in harm's way to save her, and for whatever reason that is implied by this expression here, it's up to you as a viewer she decides to keep her end of the bargain and stay with him. Which leads us to the scene and point number 5. A self-preservation instinct on the part of the prisoner, the victim learns to avoid triggers that will set off the captor. Bell never does this, even from the very beginning. That hurts. If you'd hold still, wouldn't hurt as much. Well, if you had to have run away, this wouldn't have happened. If you had frightened me, I wouldn't have run away. And that's part of what makes this scene so great. She doesn't put up with his shit, but she does give credit where credit is due. And that leaves the door open for him to stop being such a dickhead. By the way, thank you for saving me life. Point number 6. Negative feelings by the victim toward family, friends, or authorities trying to rescue or support the victim. If only he could see me father again, just for a moment. I miss him so much. Nope. Papa. No, he's sick. He may be dying and he's all alone. At this point in the film, the beast is caught between keeping Belle here and possibly saving his own humanity, or letting her go and putting her needs before his. And the second he says she could peace out to go help her dad, she's like, okay, bye. Thank you for understanding how much he needs him. That feeling where you think you got this chick to like you, but then it turns out you real literal thing monster holding her as a hostage. Best sound. And if it weren't for the mob of angry villagers, we don't have any indication as to whether or not Belle would have ever come back. I mean, she might have, to return this dish she stole, but But the most important facet that people miss about Stockholm Syndrome is that it is not a diagnosable mental disorder. It is not autism. Stockholm Syndrome is considered a contested illness, as a large portion of the psychiatric and law enforcement community do not think it is a thing. So honestly, this entire conversation is almost rendered moot because Stockholm Syndrome kind of belongs more in the category of debunked pseudoscience than actual studyable psychological conditions. Or, at the very least, it's in the category of more research needed. Making Beauty and the Beast about Stockholm Syndrome is kind of missing the forest for the trees. If you basically only had a passing pop culture knowledge of either forest or trees. Beauty and the Beast is a story about, friendship and forgiveness, that sort of thing. And the romantic aspect is played down to near non-existence. I'm on the fence as to how romantic it even is. Just look at the look on her face when he turns back into a man. Even for a Disney movie, this is a pretty sexless relationship, at least from Belle's side of things. He's my friend. He's my friend. I mean, I do enjoy beasts. Hey, look, girl, I did it. Face. Aw. So even ignoring the fact that most law enforcement and mental health professionals do not think that Stockholm Syndrome is actually even a thing, this movie is not a good example of thing. Does not mean that this term does not necessarily apply, just means that this term is not a good one. Stop using it. But while we rehear, Beauty and the Beast is the story of a young girl who wants adventure in the great white somewhere but then learns that getting married to a rich guy who held you prisoner for a while is pretty good. Actually, no, let's reframe that. Beauty and the Beast is a story of two men who view the same woman as a shiny object to be controlled, and where one of them learns to see her humanity, the other one falls to his death. To be where one of the other the I don't know. Well, when well, that's a more well. Aguis let's say it's a more optimistic way of framing it, because the story, regardless of how it's set up, it's not really Bell's story. It's the beast. He's the one who learns. He's the one who changes. He's the one with a character arc, and it's much stronger if you look at it that way because Bell's Arcus. Well, I guess she does learn to wear other dresses. Compare the Disney movie to the original fairy tale where the arc is all beauty. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Well, the tall beauty, the terror, where did you turn? Did you tell? The beast, we are told, already has a heart of gold, and we regonna ignore the whole dad rose thing. Beauty just needs to see that he has a good heart, so the arc is hers all along, and learning to see beauty in something that is superficially ugly. In the original fairy tale, the arc is beauty's, where in the Disney movie it all belongs to the beast. This is a trend we see in a lot of Renaissance Disney. The heroine states a want, be you know, legs, or adventure in the great white somewhere, or a love marriage, or not to be in the service of Satan anymore, but the solution at the end always kind of winds up being goes. In screenwriting terms, the question is, whose story is it? And in a character-driven film, like most Disney movies, for example, the story is built around the character arc or the want versus need, and for more about want versus need, check out the Hercules video. It's pretty good. In all of the Renaissance Disney movies, what the protagonist wanted was, you know, their teenage whatever dreams. I want so much more than they got planned. Sometimes you feel so. Sometimes you feel so. You read just trapped. Love to explore that shore up above. What they needed was to find love and get married, as long as it's not an arranged marriage. And when you look at Beauty and the beast's arc is a far more central theme to the story. What he wants is not to be a beast anymore. What he needs is to love someone so much that he puts her needs before not only his, but his entire castle. Because I love her. Belle's character is self-actualized at the beginning. She knows who she is, what she likes. She doesn't need to change. She just needs a guy who appreciates her, which the beast is which he gives her some books. And personally, I find that little trend of women's self-actualization being defined by what guy she ends up with way more insidious than whether or not this movie is about Stockholm Syndrome. Really, it brings up less questions of a psychological disorder and more questions of agency as it pertains to narrative, particularly for women, whose narratives usually have them being less active agents so much as being thrown into circumstances which they must then survive. So if we worried about trying to stop reinforcing this idea that women should or inevitably will end up loving their kidnapper/captor/rapist/whatever, that thought kind of undermines the point of this narrative. Disney's Beauty and the Beast is a story about basic human decency, and how society at large neither rewards it or even necessarily sees it. And that's a pretty strong narrative, but since it's such a short and simple film, all of this is at the expense of the heroine being allowed a character arc other than learning to like this guy. See, there are layers to this discussion. Complexity is even. It can be a story about denying a woman her own self-actualization while at the same time being a touching tale about empathy and forgiveness. It can be both. Internet. People who drive this movie by saying it's about Stockholm Syndrome are ignoring that it's actually about the various ways that decent people get othered by society. Maris, presumably the town's only innovator, is considered a weird cook. Gaston demonstrates that bullies are rewarded and beloved by society so long as they possess a certain set of characteristics. The townsfolk worship Gaston and think Belle is a weirdo for not conforming to the expectations foisted upon her by her gender. What's wrong with her? She's crazy. He's gorgeous. And they want to kill the beast because he looks scary despite Belle's protests. But Stockholm Syndrome? Ambiguous. Hell, let's armchair diagnose everyone. Everyone has Stockholm Syndrome. The genie has Stockholm Syndrome because he's so loyal to his kind master. After all, Aladdin's not like Jafar. He's son of the nice homes. You know, he'll enslave you after you do him a few favors. And do all the toys in Toy Story exhibit Stockholm Syndrome for Andy? Sure. Why not? Hacky, uninformed insights like this belittle the themes that are there. Seeing the good in people where they don't see it in themselves. The way society rewards bullies and superficiality. The way it others decent people who don't conform to expectations. How kindness begets kindness. Your uninformed observation does not make you smarter than the media you consume. It just means you not paying attention. And that is why the whole Stockholm Syndrome thing is stupid and needs to go away. Yes, yes, I don't recognize the irony of me getting hungry people's grills for being smug. Thanks for watching.